Women in Focus, a podcast by British Naturism. Hello and welcome to Women in Focus, a podcast brought to you by British Naturism. I'm your host Helen Berryman, and today we bring you episode 23. Today we're thrilled to welcome back a very special guest, Linda Weber, President of the American Association of Nude Recreation. Linda's leadership has been inspiring for so many, and her return to the podcast couldn't be more timely. Across the naturist community, we're seeing more and more women stepping into leadership roles, shaping clubs, organisations, and the future of naturism. It's not just about a shift in representation, it's a powerful reminder that naturism thrives when diverse voices are at the table. Women bring fresh perspectives, inclusivity, and a strong sense of community. So let's dive in and welcome Linda Weber. So I thought it would be lovely to catch up with Linda and see what's been going on for her personally within the realms of naturism and her exciting role as president. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much, Helen. I appreciate this.
I've wanted to have you on for a while now, but I know you've had a very busy year and you're up in the ante at AANR, the American Association of Nude Recreation. Oh, yes, I can say it. So tell me, how's it been? I think you've been in post for about 12 months.
Yes, I was voted in the previous August, and so I passed my year, and it's a 2-year term, so I'm starting in on my second term.
So how's it going?
It's very busy and there is a lot to do, but, I knew that there was going to be. So I'm really up for the challenge and I'm enjoying it.
So what inspired you, Linda, to step into or even go for this role?
Well, I had not actually aspired to do this. I was a regional director within AANR West, and I was on a marketing call and I was trying to figure out things. And then we had our convention. And our marketing person said, how are we going to get membership? And I thought, if you're the chair of membership marketing and you don't know, we are rudderless. And so I thought, So I did a 10-point plan and I kind of talked to the committee about it. And they loved 9 of the things and one of them they didn't. But what it did is it actually brought me to the forefront of being a forward thinker. And after that, I had 2 people come to me, very well respected within AANR, and say, you should run for president. Well, after I stopped laughing, I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. When I went on the Bare Necessities cruise, I was approached by 3 more other people. And I thought, wow, they see something that I don't see. And I thought, why not? Why not? So I talked to my husband, Stan. And at first we said, no, that's just going to be way too much. I probably would be, just overwhelmed with everything. But I decided, what? I need to step up. If anybody's going to do something, you need to do it and you need to do it right. So I stepped up and I said, I'm running. And I said to the members, if you are interested in change, then you'll vote for me. And I was very surprised when I garnered 70% of the vote. So what that told me is that they wanted change and that what we were doing currently wasn't working.
Right. So that's quite a massive lead you had there. So people obviously wanted change. So what kind of changes were you able to, 1, identify and then 2, put into place?
Well, we definitely need membership. And we hadn't really explored getting younger people or diverse people. And so I created a committee, and I didn't call it a committee because I know younger people think committee, that sounds like old. So we came up with the Young Adult Diversity Advisory Council, that we call it YDAC. And it's with people that are under 35, 40, under 40, under 35. And they're coming up with some great ideas because how younger people want to recreate is definitely different than what older people do. So what I think they would like is not something they would, and we have not really asked them before. And so that really resonated with a lot of people when I said I was going to form that. And we've had some great ideas come out of that I would have never imagined because I am not that young. I don't think like that. And so I thought it was always disrespected when we said, oh, okay, well, we think they like this. Well, why not ask them? We never had asked them. So that was a definite boon and a benefit because we're starting to see younger people interested. And another thing is I'm very member-centric. I do what's called servant leadership, which means I don't care that I have a title. and I don't even use that. I want to listen to the members. I'm available to the members. They can write to me, call me, Zoom. I try to be visible out in public as much as I can so they can talk to me. And one of the things that kind of surprised me is I answer all my own mail. I don't have anybody else. And when I've answered it, I've had a couple of people say, I am so shocked that the president actually answered my mail. And that I felt bad about that because there was an expectation, I guess, that the president wasn't going to respond. And so I'm thinking that there needs to be more of a kumbaya sort of thing where our members feel like they're appreciated. Our clubs need to feel like they're appreciated. The people that are not our members, I want them to feel that if they have questions, they can come to me because I am a nudist/naturist. And so get the answer from the correct person instead of somebody that's just going to make something up. So I want to be a resource. And as you know, like yourself, I spent years advocating on social media. So I had the advantage of people actually knowing where I stood a long time ago. And that was a big thing because our leadership tends to be a little older. They're not connected to social media. And that's where things happen. That's where younger people are. That's where they get their information. That's where a lot of people like myself get information. So we weren't availing ourselves of certain things. And so the fact that I'm on social media also helps because people can get to me by that. So I'm not unreachable. And so I think that also, helps. And I've done numerous other things that I said that I was going to do, and I've done what I said. So they're seeing that when people say something, then it gets done.
So have you seen an improvement in numbers yet, or is it too early to say?
No, we actually are seeing an improvement. And I'm really excited about that because our numbers have been going down. And I think in talking with some of the other leaders of the organizations and federations, their numbers are down too. We're in a spot and we see it's cyclical. Some years, people really embrace it. Some years we see opposition with legislation. So we see a downtrend. And so we were kind of going down. And I think it was also that they didn't see that new ideas and progression was happening. And now they're seeing it because people tell me that. The feedback that I'm getting is we're seeing a change. We're seeing the organization being revitalized. And so that lets me know that I'm on the right track. And if not, when I hear from the members, I know how to adjust. And I'm really excited to hear the feedback, good or bad, from the members.
It's interesting because when I speak to younger people, like a perfect example is stepdaughter Lizzie, who was on the last episode, and she's 22, and she would say she probably wouldn't want to join an organization because she doesn't want to subscribe to something. She doesn't even want to subscribe to calling herself a naturist or any otherist. So it's about the organizations, and I think British Naturism are starting to do this, is to let the members know what's in it for them. So it's all very well us saying join, but what's in it for me? I can take my clothes off wherever I want to, I've got the internet for all the information that I need, but we need to be making our members and non-members know what we're for. And I guess it's the same for Anna as well.
Absolutely. That's what people want to know is, what's in it for me? What do I gain with this membership? And I was basically the same way. I was a nudist already. So I thought, well, what can you offer me? Well, that was kind of a jaded look at it because when I opened up the brochure, I realized, oh my gosh, there's clubs and beaches and things like that. I had no idea because I was a home nudist for decades. And so I didn't know that there was all these social opportunities. But another thing that we've started to do that we haven't been very good at, but now getting better, is our legislation. We make sure that people now know what we do. We've kind of always done it, but we haven't really put a light on it. And we've had a lot of negative legislation that's come down the pike. And so we've worked with these legislators, and now we're saying, this is what we've done. This is what we've done for you. We've now got something current, which is Cape Canaveral. They're having SpaceX with the launches. And so it would potentially close off some of our new beaches for maybe 60 plus days because they don't want people on the beach during the launches. And so that is a lot of time for nudists that travel to Florida to not be able to go and do that. So this is one of the first times that we've had a call to action to our members to say, weigh in on this, to let them know that this is something that they need to think about. And so I am excited that we're doing these call to actions because then the members could get involved. They've always said, what can we do? And there's some things they really can't intervene on. But when they can, it's nice to know that they have the possibility of having their voice recognized.
Yeah. The other thing as well that I think we ought to shout about more as organizations is the legal work that is available for our members. So we are working for the benefit of our members and the rights of naturists.
Exactly. And we are starting now to say that. And I don't know why we never really broadcast it, because I had a couple years ago, somebody just made an offhand comment on social media and said, I'm getting divorced and my wife is going to use my nudity against me to get full custody. And I said, well, you've come to the right person, because I connected it with our executive director, and we've had so many of these. We have what we call white papers that we just hand them over to the attorneys, and it gives them everything about what AANR is about and what it isn't. And so a lot of times that has really helped, because we never want nudity or naturism to be weaponized against people to lose their jobs or be threatened or anything like that. And the great thing is it de-weaponized it, and now there's joint custody, and he will be able to bring his younger child when he gets to a certain age to nudist resorts. She did go, but then decided, I think I'm going to use this as a weapon. And we never want to see that. So we do have the tools. If members feel that they are being threatened or something happens around nudity, we ask them to please contact us, because I'm sure that we've had the situation before and we can, help them or help navigate for them.
Yeah. And I also know there's been a more recent situation with one of your female members whose husband was taking her to court as well. And we watched how the whole community all over the world rallied around to support the absurdity of what was happening to her.
Yes, exactly. And I think it resonated with people that, hey, this is not right. She went to a family-friendly, wholesome nudity resort, and she was with her child. So it wasn't like she just let him go off to somewhere unknown. And so we're watching this case very carefully. And one thing I can say about it is, because she has been very public about it, is, she's been counseled to, take off her social media and do things like that might help her case. But she said no, because what it does is it sends a message that what I've done is wrong to my son, and I'm raising it in the right way. And so she's had a lot of battles, but I'll tell you, she's so resilient. And I told her, I'm not sure I could even be that resilient at that young of an age, and, thinking about all the ramifications. So this is one of the things that we're really watching. And the public did get involved. That was one of the few cases that actually went to the public. And normally we keep them private, because it's, quite devastating to a lot of people, and they certainly don't want to have their story spread out in the media. But she was willing to be on social media to show what happens. And so mad props to her. I really respect her for that.
Yeah, she's incredible. And like you say, the resilience. But what she's advocating, and this is why I do it, and I think this is why you do it as well, is how naturism has benefited us, like mentally, our well-being, our self-image, our confidence, all of these things. And that's why we're proud of it. And that's why we want to tell people about it.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think people think, oh, we just want to run around nude on a beach or at a club, but it's so much more than that. The body positivity, especially when you talk to women who tend to be the minorities within nudism and naturism, the body positive facts that they have, because the first thing they'll say to me is, oh, I don't have a body for that, or I don't want people looking at my body. And I said, look at me. I'm certainly not a supermodel, and I'm out there because it's given me the tools to say, hey, this is what I am. And if you don't like it, well, that's kind of your bag. But I am proud of, being able to be out there and be social. And I'm not going to hide in the house because you don't like that. And I think a lot of women need that reinforcement, because, I live close to Hollywood. I have friends that are actors and actresses, and they have so much makeup on, and they're bound up with all these Spanx and all these, different girdles and everything to look good. And they're afraid if they go out without makeup, they have this big expose, oh, this is a star without their makeup. I love the fact that Pamela Anderson, and now we have other people that are celebrities, are eschewing the whole makeup deal.
Oh, natural.
And it's amazing. These women are beautiful in their natural state. And so I'm glad to see that they're bucking that, because it shows that these people wear a mask. You don't really know them. They take their makeup off. They could walk down the street. You wouldn't know them. And so that's really sad. And it would be great to get them into nudism and naturism, but I can understand why they wouldn't want to. But it would be so freeing for them. I think they could find a home and a tribe with everybody.
Yeah, there's more and more celebrity women admitting that they like to be naked and, wouldn't subscribe to the labeling, but they're happy to be nude in their hot tubs or whatever. So let's talk about the rise in women within naturist organizations. In recent times, maybe the last couple of years, there has been a rise all over the world in women taking leadership roles within naturist organizations and federations. Why? Why do you think that is?
I think women are now feeling empowered, that they feel that they're good enough to do it. I think because it seems that there is an overwhelming majority, at least in the United States, for older, white men, that I think that they've said, hey, I have a voice and I have something to say and I am valued and I am going to step up. And so I'm really glad to see that we're starting to be out there. In fact, when I won, a couple of people said, great, this is girl power, because the Naturist Society Foundation also has a female president, Cynthia Holbach. And I'm good friends with her because I'm part of one of what consider the non-landed club or social club. So I've known her for years and years. And so when she became president, I said, there's a possibility that we could both be the female presidents of the two leading organizations within the Americas here. And so it was great because I already knew her. So, we're trying to collaborate on something meaningful between the two organizations. It's a little different because we have some different goals, but it's great because I could talk to her and say, this is, something that we would like to focus on. So, and then we have Letitia Medina, who is the president of the Irish Naturist Association, which I'm excited about. So we are starting to see a rise. I think we feel empowered to go ahead and step into those roles, or at least go in and, have the vote and see who, people want.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think women bring in different or unique qualities into leadership that men perhaps don't? Or do you think it's because women are considered rarer within the naturist community that when they do get the bit between their teeth, they are ultra passionate about it? And when you're hearing it from a woman, it can make it more validated as not weird. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think so, because I think because women tend to be in the minority, like I said, at least in, the United States, I think I can see both sides. Of course, I'm not a man, so, but I've heard enough from men to understand where they're thinking. But I think it's easier for a woman to talk to a woman. We have the Women in Nude Recreation program, and it's very enlightening to hear what the conversation is when it's just women. And then sometimes we invite the men because, the women want to have some support. Here comes my husband. I'm a little nervous, but I'd like to have him here. So it's a different conversation when the men are there. So I think it's valid because I think women, when they see somebody in a role like this, they say, I can do that. If she can do it, I can do it. And I think they're more willing to approach me, ask me questions. How can they help? That they see a role model. I mean, people want to see people that look like them.
That's absolutely
and so,
true.
You see that with diversity. And we're trying to work on diversity because people want to see themselves there. And when they see themselves represented, I think it empowers them to step up. And so I think I have the unique view of knowing what the men want, but also now being a little more in tune to what women want and raise that up.
Yeah, great. And it's about absolutely seeing yourself. You and I have said this loads of times before, and you came up with the hashtag, I am the face of naturism, because we're just normal in the supermarket people going about our business, and you could be anybody, but you could be a naturist and you don't need to look a certain way. And that is the beauty of it. You're not judged in any way. You're known for you, not for your exterior.
It's true because I was trying to figure out how can I connect with people that are not naturists and don't live in nudity like I do. And I was at an event and one of the people that was there said, well, what is a naturist like? And I said, well, you're looking at one. Yeah. They didn't know. They said, okay, what does that mean? And I told them I live in nude philosophy. It's non-sexual. It's wholesome. I rarely have clothes on in the house. I go to different events or beaches or resorts. And so I came up with the hashtag, I'm the face of naturism. And it wasn't I am, it's for people to use to say, this is what I look like. I am the face of naturism. The different people, we go to your schools, we shop next to you, we're your neighbors. In fact, I have a quick story. My husband and I walk our track all the time at night. And so we've been doing it for years. And this one neighbor moved. And so they kind of dumped the cat on our other neighbor. So, we would always talk and, on our walk, oh, there's Gabby. I would talk to him. And one day he comes flying out of his house and he says, I've seen you on Meetup. And there's only one reason I'm on Meetup, and that's for my nude events. And he says, I didn't know you were a naturist. I said, well, I didn't know you were either. And so he was all excited because we had literally been talking for a year over this cat and different things, and didn't realize that, we went to the same beach. And so it was like, I actually had one in my own neighborhood.
Yeah.
We just don't, it's hard to say, hi, I'm Linda Weber, I'm a nudist, and have
Pleased to
people
meet
go,
you.
oh my gosh, it's not an opener usually. But I want to do that hashtag, and people are using it. It went viral. And I was so excited because when people see that, they see all the different bodies, they see all the different people. And that was what it was for. And it's to show that we live among you and we're just as normal as you are, relatively speaking, but we just have a different philosophy. So it's a way to connect with non-naturists.
No, it's a great idea. Somebody once said to me about not being ashamed or embarrassed to say you're a naturist because it will open up a conversation and you might be permitting someone else to join in and say, oh, me too.
Yes.
And part of the reason we've got a campaign here at British Naturism called One Person, if you tell one person, you could be permitting that person to say, me too. And, you would never know because, like you say, it's not usually an opener like, hello, I'm a naturist. It's just sort of weaving it into the conversation. Like, if we do go out and have to wear clothes, invariably Simon will wear his T-shirt, I'd rather be naked. And if appropriate, I'll wear my Empowering Women podcast T-shirt. And it initiates conversations all the time. And people do ask genuine, interested questions rather than the mockery. Well, we don't see the mockery, maybe yes, after we've gone, but...
That's so true because I try to wear T-shirts that will open up the conversation. Someone gave me a T-shirt that says, I like to be naked and I know things. So, people laugh about that. But I was on a cruise a couple of years ago for a month. It was a textile cruise. And so you kind of got to know people pretty well. And at the end of the cruise, they said, oh, we'd like to stay in contact with you. What social media you're on? And I said, okay, I'm always ready for this. I said, well, I'm a president of a nude organization. And the main reason I'm on there is to advocate for nudity. So all my pictures are nude. And I always say, if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. I understand. I'm not going to, push it on you. I didn't have one person say no. And I see them, they'll put likes on things that they see. And one lady, she was an older lady, she said, you're a nudist? Of course, she yelled it and everybody was turning around. So I'm thinking, yeah, here she is. And she said, I've always wanted to do this on my bucket list. And I said, where do you live? And she said, Phoenix. And I said, hey, great. When you get back to Phoenix, we will go to a club together. Now, she travels all over the world and she's everywhere but the United States lately. And so when she finally gets here, I'm going to take her there because she's so excited about it. So it's one of those things, she's going to get to solve her bucket list item. And I'm going to, get a chance to introduce somebody to, a club that had no idea about it. So I was very surprised. And now I'm not as reticent to say what I do.
Yeah. I mean, same. We are passionate in what we do. And by that, we're not ashamed of what we do either. So I don't have no problem telling anybody because I'm not ashamed at all.
Yeah, before I used to be a little more reticent because I didn't want people to feel uncomfortable or, not talk to me because maybe they didn't agree. But now I'm a little more open about it because they know that I'm very busy. They're always asking what I'm doing. So it came up in the conversation and people are like, wow, this is great. So, sometimes it's all in our head that we think that what people are going to think or that they're going to be upset with it. And it turns out that it was a non-starter. So
it's like you said before as well. It is about educating people because people, when you hear the word or the terms nudist, naturist, the wider society will often jump to the wrong conclusion and think it's all about sex or exhibitionism or whatever. So again, opening up the conversation to tell people what it is and more importantly, what it isn't. And people are genuinely interested in that, I think.
It's true. I love when people that aren't, they're what I call them, they're nude adjacent because they're asking the questions that they could be, maybe persuaded if they got the answers that they're looking for. And so I never figure anything is a dumb conversation because they're genuinely asking and they want to know. And some of the questions seem a little odd, but that's what their perception is. And so I always try to accentuate the positive, but I do want to say that it's non-sexual so that people understand that, because I've had that, does your husband know, so you're with other men and things like that. And I said, no. Let me dispel that. I live a nude philosophy with my husband. I'm monogamous. That's not what we're into. And so now they know, okay, I'm not dealing with a swinger. I'm dealing with somebody that just loves to be nude because they don't want clothes or that's in philosophy. So I think you need to delineate what it isn't as well as what it is.
Yeah, totally agree with that. So going back to your presidency, Linda, have you faced any challenges as a woman leader in the community that's traditionally led mostly by men?
At the beginning, I really did. I saw it when I was even campaigning that they had the choice of the old guard, which is a man, and the upstart, who was a woman. And so I heard about it mostly from the inside. It was the leadership and the people within the organization that didn't want to see the change and didn't want a woman coming in and mucking things up, so to speak. But the members spoke. They wanted to see change. And even if I had been a man, I think they still would have said, hey, we've got somebody here that is willing to buck the system and go for it. But I think having a woman in there also brought in some of the women that said, hey, I haven't voted or I haven't done anything. And this is great that we see that a woman's stepping up. And we've had women presidents before. It's just that I'm bringing in a new dimension because not only am I a woman, but I want change. Instead of keeping the status quo, because we really can't. Every organization needs to grow and expand. And what do we like when we're older? We like comfort. We like the same things. We don't want things to change. And that will be our downfall if we allow that.
100% agree with that. And it's correct for organizations and the clubs as well, because you're not going to get the younger people coming to your clubs if you make it so difficult to get into the clubs. Provide events that are easy for young people to enjoy, or allow them in. If you're going to have an open day, have an open day. Don't have we've got too many men. So, do you know what I mean? Just stop putting barriers up for people to enter your environment. Otherwise, your club will die.
And trying to get that through to the clubs is very difficult because some of them have been for decades. This is how they work. It's worked up until now and everything's fine. But I think with the pandemic, that kind of flipped the script on a lot of stuff. But younger people want to socially recreate, but it's different. And the clubs are very structured. And some of them have some great events and some of them understand the need. But a lot of them say, well, we don't want a lot of single men because if a woman walks in, she might be overwhelmed, but I think that's unfair because that's the majority of the people that are our members. And so you're basically leaving members and money off the table when you do that. And also when they have a certain thing about, well, younger people want loud music and they want to do this and they want to do that. And I'm thinking, were you not ever young? Did you not realize that you weren't the same as you were before? And so that's why I'm trying to work with the younger folks and get how they want to recreate. They love free beaches. They love nude hiking. They love music concerts and they like the holy runs with, the paint runs and things.
Yes, yeah.
They want to do it differently. So it's not that it's bad, it's different. So we need to say it's different, but let's embrace that. That's why I'm so excited to have YDAC because these are ideas I wouldn't have thought of because that's not how I think. And so it was so disrespectful that we haven't asked them before. And so I'm trying to get the younger people in because I'm going to age out and I need somebody to hold the flag, so to speak. Otherwise, naturism will go away everywhere.
You won't age out, Linda. You're invincible.
I hope.
Oh, the other thing I thought of about clubs, I think it has changed in as much as when the older members of clubs were starting out, they had more time. So they were able to volunteer on the grounds or whatever that might look like. I think as a society, we have become very time poor. Because we're working, we're looking after the kids, both parents are working and it's just become when you want your leisure time, that's all you want to do. You don't want to be building someone's fence or painting the walls. So I think the structure of a club will have to change because people are time poor.
I hadn't really thought about that, but that's true. And if you have only so much time, the last thing you do want to do is fritter it away. That's not what they're going to do. So, the clubs have a purpose, and I support the clubs because they have a place. They're a place for people, especially for women who don't want to go out to a nude beach and have the public see her.
Yeah.
It's a safe place. So I'm a big fan of the clubs. We have some gorgeous clubs here and abroad. But the one thing is that a club is very structured. And so we want to have non-structure for the people that really don't want to see that. And that's where and we haven't gotten a better term for it, but it's non-landed club. It means something outside of a brick and mortar resort. And we are seeing a burgeoning of these where it's a group of people that gets together and they do social events. They could go to museums, they go nude bowling, nude painting, they go on hikes. And so it's not the traditional club where you're walking in a gate. This is, at somebody's house or a potluck. So I said that's going to be the grassroots way that we grow nudism and naturism. And I'm really seeing that. And I'm seeing that's what younger people are embracing because they can do anything that they want. One of the things that they said is we want to have things like, how do you prepare your taxes? Because I'm not very good at that. But they would be nude. So it's like, okay, this is a normal, thing that you could get out in the public, but they want to be nude doing it. They want to be educated, not necessarily have fun. They want to be educated on things like that. Or they want to, have the music or do something that is not structured. And that's what these social and travel clubs, I think, are filling that gap for people that don't think they have a lot of time and they're younger and don't really want to be joiners as well, not locked into like a membership.
Yeah, it is changing. It's like you say, there's room enough for all of it.
I agree. And a lot of times, like the runs, we'll have the bare buns runs. And I don't run. My husband does. I only run towards food or away from bears. But he runs. And what I'll do is I'll be the cheerleader at the end. And I will ask him, hey, are you a nudist or are you going to stay? Because usually the runs will allow you to have a day pass for free.
Correct. Yeah.
And a lot of times they're saying, no, this was on my bucket list. This is just what I want to do. And I said, hey, why don't you come to the pool, meet some of the people, just relax. And a lot of them have. And they said, wow, I didn't know that's what you guys did. I didn't even know these existed. I just wanted to run nude. And so, it's kind of introducing it to people that hadn't really thought about it. So it's a way to get some of the people that aren't nudists to check something off on their bucket list and maybe, get a peek into how we recreate.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And when we've done the Naked 5Ks, it's an opportunity for textiles and naturists to sort of mingle. And like you say, the bucket list thing. But then they're meeting you and they're seeing what goes on. And the same with the Great British Skinny Dips that we do. I mean, I think a skinny dip's an ideal way. If you're curious at all about naturism, the pool acts like a bit of a blanket anyway. And it's so liberating, isn't it?
And I think once you feel the water against your bare skin, you will never want to put a bathing suit on or get out and you've got this wet, soggy thing. And that's one of the things that, because we have the skinny dip day too. And we always say, hey, just, if you're in a private pool or a spa, just hop in. You don't have to do it in a big public place. But a lot of people, that's their bucket list item. So if you can get them to, dip a toe, so to speak, and they feel that water, a lot of times they're like, wow, this is great. Okay, I'm seeing a little bit of what, you experience.
Yeah.
And I always say, try it. If you don't like it, then, at least you've tried it. But don't demonize something if you haven't tried it. And so I always ask people, especially I do a lot of work with reticent women and their husbands. And I always say, if you're going to go to a club, let me know the next day or, whenever, how you felt about it. And I have not had one person say, that's it, I'm never going again.
No.
We had this one guy that said, I've been working on my wife for years to try to get her to go. So she booked a weekend at a club outside of where she lives. And she called up, she's all excited. She goes, guess what? I booked this weekend at a club within my neighborhood because I don't care. I'm so excited and I don't know why I didn't do it before. So she tried it and it was life-changing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's often the way, isn't it? It's all very well. I say this a lot and I must come up with some new ones to say. but the message is the same. We talk about it all the time. But until you experience a naturist environment for yourself, there's no amount of reading, no podcasts, you have to go and see for yourself. And then you'll be like, I get it now. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me, isn't it? Like,
exactly. I know now you can't get your clothes back on, huh? You know,
I'm nude before he is sometimes.
it's getting them to that point to actually walk through the gate. And a lot of them will say, I'm not going to take my clothes off. And I always say, if you want to blend in, when the gate opens, everybody looks to see if it's somebody they know. But I said, if you're in your clothes, then people are going to look at you because you're clothed. And so I said, when you take your clothes off, then you're blending in. And, the brass band isn't going to play. Nobody's going to start clapping. Nobody's going to say anything because we all have been there. And so then they realize, oh, that's right. People are staring at me because I have my clothes on. So when they take their clothes off, like you did, you were part of it and it wasn't a big deal. So what we imagine in our head is far worse than what happens when we get there. It's getting this narrative to change.
Yeah, because we've been taught forever we must keep our clothes on, we must be modest. And, we're talking about taking our clothes off in front of strangers potentially. And when you do it and you realize nobody is looking at you at all, they're probably more worried about themselves. It's just all of that garbage has gone from, trying to subscribe to looking a certain way or worrying what other people think. Because actually it doesn't matter and people want to get to know you.
I was at a Nude event this weekend and one of the gals said, well, we can't talk about clothes because none of us are wearing any. So what do we talk about? And I said, we can talk about everything else. We could talk about, how good we look and what we do. And I said, our clothes are not our cues to what we want to say. So I said, it's a different conversation. And they agreed that it was. We weren't getting the visual clues. We weren't talking about clothes. We weren't talking about work. We were talking about how we felt, how we felt in a nude environment, because a lot of these gals, this is our first time being nude. So it was interesting to see that they were coming to, the same conclusions that we all do. So, yeah.
I remember our first episode, Linda, and we talked about clothes as a judgment tool. And, that totally resonated with me and it still does because you're the same, I think. When you have to be dressed for a function, that's when the anxiety comes like, oh my God, does my bum look big in this? Never get that nude. My bum is my bum, whatever. But never get that when I'm nude. It's incredible.
Well, I agree. And I am more in tune with recycling, reusing, reducing. And so, my wardrobe, I call it thrift store chic because I don't want to perpetuate the fast fashion. I've never been a fashion maven. In fact, that's why in junior high and high school, I hated clothes. That's why I came home and took them off because I could see the judgment and I didn't want to be that person. And so now I get most of my stuff from the thrift store, which would probably horrify a lot of people. But there's a lot of fashionable stuff out there that is amazing. But it's gotten another life now, and I don't do a lot of laundry, which I tell a lot of women that and they're like intrigued about that.
Another tip.
Not the laundry, the water, the detergent, all of the stuff that goes around that. And to perpetuate this fast fashion. And, I think that naturism and nudism could get more of a foothold if we didn't have big business telling people you're less. So if you buy our stuff, you're going to be more. The clothes, the makeup, all the accessories and things like that, the plastic surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that gone bad, for people that can really afford that. And it's just like, I would hate to live under that pressure. I mean, we still do. You wish that, you were bigger or smaller or different things, but it doesn't ruin your life and it doesn't rule your life like you see it in some of the other industries.
Yeah. I mean, I hear younger people say that they use fashion or clothes to express themselves. And I guess I get that, but I'm expressing myself with my piercings.
I mean, we've heard that they say, I'm wearing my necklace because of this, or I'm wearing jewelry or body jewelry, because they said that's really the only thing I could do because I don't have clothes on. But like I said, it's a different conversation then. Then you're talking about what they're wearing, like the jewelry or the body piercings and things like that. So it's a different conversation than with a textile. And I say textile, and it's not a derogatory. It's just a descriptor. Because I'm a textile. When I go out of that door, I need to put my clothes on. So we live in a textile world, and we're, nudist when we can be and when it's practical. But I'm not going to go around breaking laws just to get my point across.
Yeah, and equally, I think it's all about respect. I mean, I wouldn't want to rock up at the supermarket and make everybody else feel uncomfortable just because I can and do have the right to. It just wouldn't go down well.
I'm a big person about respect, and I even wrote a whole thing about respect, what it is and how we can work with textiles, because there's a lot of times that you can have a conversation and influence people by just having a conversation. But if you're standing on a building with a bullhorn in the middle of a closed area, the loudest voice in the room isn't always right.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people get so hardline on this that it's like anything. If all of a sudden I said, I love fish, and if you don't eat fish every day, I can't be your friend because, fish is going to rule the world and you need to do that. When you get to be like that, then people back away. They don't join in. But if you can have a conversation, be very gentle about it and respect what they say. And if people say, you know what, that's not my bag. Okay, then you change the subject. You don't keep banging on about it. Or like one time I accidentally opened the door because I thought it was my husband. It was my neighbor. And I was, of course, Nude. And I said, oh my God, I am so sorry. And she says, no worries. I was like, Ippy, I did that. I don't care. And we just had a conversation. I'm standing in the nude. But the first thing I did was apologize because I didn't want to think I ambushed people.
Right.
I don't ambush people because I want to give them the right. I mean, if I had a thing on my door, I think like you guys do, that says, you're going to encounter nudity, that's different because you gave them the warning. But it's like anything. If I opened the door and started proselytizing about something, people would probably start running away. But if you say, oh, okay, well, this is me. You just saw the warning. I'm nude. Hopefully that's not offensive to you. Or if it is, I apologize, but that's how I live. People, if you're a little more gentle about it, people can listen to it and they're more embracing, instead of yelling about it.
Yeah, more open to listening. You start saying people get the defenses up and you're never getting anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any advice that you would give to younger women or newcomers who may want to get involved in leadership themselves within Naturism?
The first thing I would say is join an organization and be a part of it. Be a part of a committee, be a director, be whatever they have that's like a grassroots type thing where you can see how the bureaucracy is involved, see how the environment is, see what is needed, and also listen to what the constituents or members want. You can't just jump into it and say, hey, I know how things should be if you haven't experienced it. So I always say, volunteer, get an idea of what it takes to change minds or get people in. Once you do the work, I think you're going to see that it's not as easy as you thought. Like I thought it would be a little easier. Hey, I'm a woman. I'm on social media. We're going to get all these women to jump in there and do it. And I found out it's a really hard sell. Just because it was a little easier for me, it's not easier for a lot of other people. So you'll get that perspective and you'll get that. And I've never thought this at all, that you're not always right. I never think that I'm always right. I always listen to what other people say because they could change my mind. And so you have to be very open to ideas that maybe aren't in your wheelhouse, that you have control over, but, can you maybe influence it? And so the biggest part is stepping up and being a part of the system.
So as a volunteer myself, the more I volunteer and the more I get involved or campaign, I get so much more out of it. And I think that's why we carry on, because we're getting something out of it and we see that we're helping people along the way.
Well, and also I get a lot of on social media, you need to do this or the organization should do this. And I always say, well, are you a member? If not, why not, get on a board or a committee? And sometimes people say no. And I said, well, how do you think you're ever going to make a difference? If you expect somebody else to do the work, and that's me. I thought maybe that somebody else could do the work. And I even said that. I said, maybe I could just do it being on the committee. And I realized I couldn't. As president, I can affect more things. So we've actually started to see younger people get on these boards and be able to affect change. And so they're seeing that there's a direct connection of actually putting in the effort than just sitting there being a keyboard warrior telling people what needs to be done.
Yeah. Has Anna part of the INF? Are there talks going ahead?
That's the only thing is I was really disappointed because I had talked to Hector years and years ago about rejoining the INF because we had been a partner. And we didn't do it. And then when we got Stefan, we saw that it was going to change. And I was really excited about that. And so I was pretty disappointed when we didn't win the vote to get in to be a member. And I was really disappointed. And I don't know, because of the way that they're structured, if the vote is going to happen again, if they're going to relook at that. Because I thought that would really expand our reach globally so people would know, what we have here in the United States and all that. And so that was disappointing. And so I don't know if it's so much that we would push it. It's just that, do we think that the Federation wants us there?
I thought they really, really did. So I wonder what's happening
I
there.
did too. They actually did 2 votes while they were in Zipolite because it was kind of close, but we didn't win it. And so I think we need to change some minds. I think maybe if enough time goes by, they might say, okay, we're seeing that they're changing and evolving and want to be a part of it. And hopefully we will be. And if not, then it's just not meant to be. They've got some great people with Hector and...
I met Hector this year.
Lucky you. I went to Guadalajara, but he was somewhere else at the time that I was there. And I went, So we keep saying that we're going to meet up. But, that's what is the funny thing is we're so busy advocating that we're not in one place long enough. I will get to meet him, though.
He hung out with us at Nude Fest.
I saw that. I saw the picture. And you know what I like about that is it shows that we've known each other so long, so to speak, from social media that we feel like we can approach them and that we know them. And so they're like old friends when we actually get to meet them in person. And I think people really like to see when people get together in a social environment that, hey, look, I met this person online and now I get to see him in person.
Yeah.
And I think that is exciting for people too.
I love that. It's like when we met in person when you came to the UK, and then I surprised you on board the Bare Necessities cruise. Like, hi, Linda.
I was talking to Martin and we're just having conversation. And then I look over and it was like, it didn't register because, when a person you don't expect to see is in a location. And so I think I had a blank look on my face at first. Simon's, filming, and then all of a sudden the recognition. I mean, it was so exciting that it just shocked me. And I was so glad that you were able to see that what the Bare Necessities cruises are and the camaraderie and the fact that you're floating with 3,000 other, like-minded people. But that was great. That was great. I must admit, that was a big surprise. And Martin did not tell me about it.
Yeah, I didn't want you to know. I just wanted to surprise you. So I'm glad Martin kept his mouth shut.
I wish I would have known, but I was so excited that I was surprised. And I'm so glad Simon got that on film because you could see the look on my face. Yeah, definitely.
Well, do you have any plans to come back to the UK?
We always do, because I used to go every year for my birthday, but this year we're going to Hawaii, meeting up with some members. I'm excited about that. But definitely, we love the UK. We love London. And now we have the option of clubs and places to go. So definitely, if I'm there, I will let you know, because it would be great to hang out at a nude club, and just hang out.
Well, people want to see you at Nude Fest. There's been lots of requests. Get Linda over. Okay.
I would love to. The sad thing is I'm not on social media as much as I used to be because I love it, because I'm more in front of the computer. And somebody asked me, and my husband popped up, she's about 6 hours in front of the computer. I have to ask her if she can pencil me in for dinner. So I'm doing more administrative things. So I'm not getting out. And I'm trying to get out there because I want to be out there and social and meet people. So I'm not ruling out, and I'd love to do the World Naked Bike Ride in London. I'm
not doing that.
You will. If I go over there, you have to come with me.
Oh, I'll be in the crowd. I won't be on a bike.
Yeah, you can cheer us on. Okay.
I love how this community, we just all get together and help each other. It's incredible. I steal ideas off of you, off of Andy. People are stealing mine, and I just love that.
Well, I think it's great because we're collaborating. If somebody has a good idea and you can replicate it, why not? Why do we have to reinvent the wheel and be different? Why can't we do the same things maybe in different places? Because if it works for one, maybe it's going to work for somebody else, and share the wealth, share the successes.
Yeah, definitely. Linda, thank you so much for joining us again on Women in Focus. No doubt I'll have you on again in a year's time or two to see what's been happening when you've taken over the world.
I hope. Well, it's always a pleasure to be on here, and I love getting a chance to talk to you and talking to the members too. So it's great.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much, Linda.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I always feel it's an honor.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much to Linda. It's always a pleasure to have her on. If today's conversation has inspired you, and as Linda and I said, we encourage you to take the next step to get involved with your naturist organisations. These communities don't just offer a space to practice naturism, they're where change happens, where leaders are made, and where the movement continues to grow stronger. And as we said, the more you put in, the more you get out. Whether it's volunteering, attending events, or simply showing up with an open mind, your voice and presence can and will make a real difference. So that's it for episode 23 of Women in Focus. Again, a huge thank you to Linda for joining us again and sharing her vision. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep the conversation going and keep celebrating the power of women in naturism. As usual, another request to like, subscribe, thumbs up, hearts on whatever platform you listen to your podcast. Your support really does help us. I've been your host, Helen Berryman, and join me next time as we bring more Women in Focus.